Eric, you want to kick us off?
Welcome to Scale Mastermind. This is the first things I'm going to say today. This is awesome. Sorry for the late entry, but I want to say huge congratulations to Christian today. What a great opportunity to see Onyx kick off, and the support has been overwhelming. If you don't know what Onyx is, get on there and check it out. It's good to have him amongst our mix. But today is Scale Mastermind, and what are we going to do? We're going to help you get to the next level of where you want to be in your business. Guys, kick it off.
Well, thank you, Eric. First of all, awesome. Super excited about it. As excited as I am more excited to hear about what Brian has going on. I want to hear all about that launch. I want to hear all about it.
Awesome. So just hired a managing broker. I was focused on a team, and I actually own a brokerage and kind of treated it like the redheaded stepchild. And through this group was able to really, realize the potential of what owning a brokerage has to offer and what I can do with my recruiting efforts, because I noticed recruiting and just trying to get the right people for the team, I was passing up on multiple people that I actually had a place for them. And so hiring the managing broker allowed me to take a step back from being team lead, principal broker, just a whole lot of hats I was wearing. So implementing the managing broker, already coming in with 16 training modules for new agents, seasoned agents, 2 days in, already reaching out to everybody in the brokerage, letting them know we're going to be doing office meetings. We got new agent training, we got MLS training, contract training. He's already uploaded 25 clauses that he's written for contracts that agents can use, going over our buyer brokers, updating our just super amazing stuff. Already talking to new agents that want to join a brokerage, not necessarily a team. So just tons of stuff going on in like 2 days. So it's pretty impressive, and like a weight has kind of been lifted off my shoulder, knowing like, hey, I have this whole brokerage and office here, and now it's being utilized. And, day 2, we're already like, hey, what happens when we hit capacity here? Where are we opening another office? So the growth talk is just amazing and refreshing, and something that I'm looking forward to exploring. And I think it'll help me with my team as well, because, now I can recruit. My recruiting efforts are not going to waste on getting the right member, the right team person. Like, I can bring on anybody, recruit, and if they're a fit for the team, great. If they're not, they could be a fit for the brokerage. And where I lacked on that before was the brokerage agents really didn't have support. They didn't have, I didn't have the time to support them and train them and help them. And now I've got somebody there that can do that. So it's super exciting. And especially going into a time now where we're seeing so many people exit the real estate world. It's nice to know that you've got somebody in your corner who has a lot of experience and a lot of training and wants to coach and educate people to help them withstand the lack of inventory and the shrinking of transactions. So I'm excited. It's awesome. I think it's going to be good for my company. We rebranded. We didn't get a whole new name like Christian, but we've got new logos and everything else. And, just kind of feels like a good jump start. So I'm extremely excited and can't wait to see where this is going. And also want to thank everybody on this Zoom, because without you guys talking about it, being about it, exploring it, I don't think I would have ever got to this point. So thank you.
Brian, let's go back a couple of months. Let's go back and put in a mindset of helping somebody that was in your shoes just a few months ago, where you had self-doubt, where just the clarity, the focus wasn't there. What do you think the catalyst was that pushed you over into making the decision to hire somebody like that?
Honestly, like just hearing that other people saw the issues, and the struggles. And it wasn't just me seeing like, oh my gosh, it's a mountain to climb, right? But with one step at a time, you can get there. Like seeing everybody who has success or is starting to move in the direction of success, knowing like, oh, I failed here, I did that. Like, it gave me a little bit of comfort. Like, it's okay to screw up. It's okay to turn around and try again. It's like, learn from those mistakes and keep pressing forward. I think everybody in this room has all made a mistake, all pressed on. And, it just kind of gave me some comfort. Like, okay, I'm not going to get it right on the first try, but you keep trying and you get there. And like, everybody in this room has done some things recently that, I'm super impressed and proud to be a part of that group. Like, it's awesome. And I think that's what gave me the confidence. And, having a coach in this room too helped, pushed me at times. So, but finally just doing the things that you say you're going to do and following them through and just sticking with it.
Yeah. And let me hop on the next question. Brian, so you've made a couple of key hires, right? 2 key hires. One is from outside of the industry, which I think is going to be fantastic. Same concept, same vital behaviors within that person that makes successful in our industry. Then there's yourself, who has this almost 30 years in the industry, 20, between 25, 30.
Oh, 2025. Yeah.
2025, you're not as old. Okay, that's fine. And then, but then the broker you brought on substantially older, been in the business a long time. What is the strategy going to be to make sure that the 3 of you in this leadership role are using the same language and staying on track? Are you guys going to use an operating system? What does that look like?
So one of the things that I've done, or I did a state of the business meeting with, I interviewed them separately, did interviews, second interviews. And what I picked up on was the person outside the industry was using traction like EOS verbiage, but just not the same words. And so made it clear, like, hey, we're very familiar with what you're talking about. And we call them, rocks. And, he quickly understood, which I was like, immediately, this is going to be great. He understands how EOS works, very familiar with it, getting everybody rowing in the same direction. But I think the biggest thing was getting everybody on the same page to start and saying, this is where we are. This is where we want to go. This is the vision. These are the core values. This is the mission statement. And being fully transparent with all the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in the business was huge, because not only did they get to see it, they weren't coming into a scenario where they were going to be blindsided or like, oh, this isn't what I thought. Like, it was a 4-hour meeting of, here is where I am. This is where I came from. This is where I started. This is the things I've done. This is how I've got here. And this is where I want to go. These are the pieces I need to put in place. And as soon as the meeting was done, it was immediate buy-in. They were like, yes, this is amazing. This is the growth path I was looking for. And I think one of the big things was like, we all started saying KPIs, measurables, setting these quarterly rocks, understanding like, and then I put it on their plate to say, hey, here we are, we're starting. Where do we start? What are the first things we need to implement? What are the first things we want to start tracking? And they were coming up with the ideas, and they were in line with what I wanted. So I didn't have to put them out there and say, oh, this would be the direction I want to go. Let's hear where you want to go. And both were like very similar and in line with what I would have put and said. So that's how I knew I kind of had, some right people in the right spots.
Excellent. So are you going to continue on? Because I know we started at the beginning of the year with EOS and using that format in meetings. Are you going to continue on that with them?
Yeah, we're going to continue that meeting strategy, and, we're going to be, evaluating everybody in the brokerage, everybody in the company, employees, agents, everything. We're going to set KPIs for ISAs, team agents, brokerage agents, employees. defined roles, like, because we do have some crossover,
Mhm.
being a smaller company, we only have like 4 or 5 actual employees. Everybody else is independent contractors. So just really setting up that strong organizational flow chart and making sure everybody knows what they're responsible for in the scorecards and what we're going to be measuring on. Not only will my team become more efficient, it may be smaller. I may be the SEAL team that we call it. I'd hate to use that word, but I may have a very efficient team with a bench, and I may have a very large brokerage, and that may be the key that actually works best for me. Maybe having 10 really solid producing agents that are going through the agent journey and constantly having a bench to refill when they're ready to break out and be in the brokerage and do their own thing, because the agent journey is about, getting from brand new agent to potentially being a broker owner or a team lead or wherever it may be. So, but having that ability to have a very efficient team and a bench right behind them, seeing what they're doing, watching them practice and, their craft and be a master of it, and then move on to the next level, and having the next level inside my company, I think is really where the agent journey can become full circle for me. Because I don't know in other teams where somebody could be a broker owner inside a team, like, so that my agent journey actually can come to fruition for somebody inside my company.
This is such a wonderful experience to kind of go through this, because for people who are watching, and even for everybody on our call right now, recognizes certain terms. EOS recognizes KPIs, recognizes the need for this kind of process, the term agent journey, because that's how you scale. That's how you become more successful. And so I'm going to keep chasing this down a little bit with you. You have 2 new employees, right? Two new W-2s. One substantial amount of experience in the industry. Why not? One bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready just to do everything. You're definitely going to be right in the middle of that. How do you, because we all know that the longer you're in this business, the more cynical you get, right? And, obviously speaking transparently, learning how to let people make mistakes, throttling that mistake, making sure the mistake has some boundaries. But you're going to have a brand new person who's gung-ho in the industry, who's going to want to do a whole bunch of cool stuff in their view. You're going to look at the list of stuff that they do and you're like, oof, like number 4 and number 8, that's not going to work. Are you planning on putting that limitation on, or are you going to let people fail forward? What are you thinking? And then are you going to coordinate with the person with all the experience in the industry and say, hey, look, this is what's going to happen. We both know that. We both know when people get into a new position, let's use recruiting as an example. You get somebody from outside of our industry and say, come in, be a recruiter, and they were a recruiter someplace else, they're going to call everybody. Right? The biggest hindrance in recruiting, the more experience you get, when you look at a list, you're like, don't call Curtis's agents. I know Curtis and I go to basketball games. I really don't want you calling his agents because he's my friend. That's limiting their potential, right? Now, do you have a plan for that, or what are you thinking? And then how are you going to communicate that?
It's definitely something that's crossed my mind, and I do feel like being open-minded, and the longer you're in this business, yes, the more cynical you are. It just, right. So I think being open-minded and saying like, okay, I have to explore all these opportunities and ideas, but also I have somebody with a lot of experience who's seen more real estate cycles and markets than I have. Also have a little input or idea of like, how could we tweak this to work? Or I think one of the great things about having somebody who has a lot of experience and seen a lot of things, but still has the mindset of like, what's next? It's not going to be the same. And I think that's what intrigued me the most about him, is that he's like, what's happening in 6 months? What's happening in 12? what's going on here? And like some of the questions he asked me, I was like, whoa, I haven't even thought about that yet. So it kind of like opened my mind a little to be like, okay, well, he is not going to be stuck in a one-track mind. He's not just, I've done it this way for, and one of the questions I got asked was, how many people applied for this job, and why did you select me over them? And I was like, well, actually I had quite a few apply, and I had several out of the area. And I said, one of the reasons I immediately said no to anybody out of the area is because our market's very unique. Hampton Roads is a very big 7 cities, military, tourist, very transient, diverse market. And I didn't want somebody coming from a different area who doesn't understand what Hampton Roads offers, or why our market is so insulated from like a Philly market or a Dallas market or a Phoenix market. And he had so much experience just in Virginia. I was like, from being at KW, big corporate brokerage, being at a small Fit or Fathom, you won't know who that is unless you're in my area, brokerage, and then even partnering with a West Coast brokerage to scale to the East Coast, which didn't happen, not because of him, because of them, but tons of experience on that from start to finish, big and small, and then actually just knowing our market is what drew me to him. But the other that I said to, basically, I needed somebody who I didn't have to train. Here's how Hampton Roads works. I needed somebody past that point. So, and he's open to change and loves growth and loves hearing new ideas. So, I'm excited to see, but I will balance the new outside person to what is more realistic inside this market, but I'm not going to limit, I'll let them fail forward, because I think this industry has changed so much since I've been in it, and it's going to keep changing.
Excellent. I got a bunch of questions, but I'll let other people step in. I'll stop controlling all those.
I want to ask you, like, Brian, a question up front, kind of like where Eric was at. I know Scott's going a little bit deeper. Probably 6 months ago, you probably wanted to make these moves because you just started. When was the last hire before this? The broker? It was like a month ago, a month or so.
Employee was probably like 2 months ago, but outside of that, it's probably been over a year.
Yeah. So 6 months ago, you probably wanted to make a move, right? To like hire someone. And I think, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to speak for everyone else, but when we are trying to like level up to the next level, I sometimes say, yeah, I need to do this, but, and there's always an objection. What was your objection you had to overcome to be like, okay, I have to actually do this? Because I'm sure people listening, they have a yeah, but, like, I want to scale. Yeah, but there's something. So what was your yeah, but, if you had one?
I think a lot of it is just the dynamic of like the office, the people that are here, how it affects everything. Because like, as a business owner, team lead, you build something, it's running, and then you're trying to like level up, and it's kind of scary because there's going to be a big piece that needs to be added, and how is it going to affect everything else that's already moving, right? So it's scary. How am I going to pay for it? How am I going to do this? Like there's a lot of those little things that come in, and you get complacent. And if you know my journey, I was complacent for quite a while, but I felt like it was at a high level. And when I started realizing and masterminding, and I think entering coaching changed my whole perspective of like, sure, it's cool to be a one-man rock star and great, but it got me thinking like, where could I go with this? What could I do? And then joining a group like this, with different perspectives and opinions and markets, like there is that but. Always, in everything that you're going to do, there's always a but. If there's not a but, then you're way past making the decision. It should have already been made. But I'm guilty of that. But you just have to kind of know your vision. I think really when I laid out my vision, I laid out my core values and my mission statement and found out why. I felt like more clarity came into the picture. And then I move slower than most. I'm more calculated, but I did do it. And it did take me a while to get over those butts, and they were there. I mean, there are financial reasons, disrupting team, losing people, changing culture, afraid to fail. All those things come in, and you just got to say, all right, I'm going to keep trudging forward no matter how hard it is. And ultimately, I did a lot of interviews, a lot of text of like, where's that ad that you're supposed to post? Like, the support and push from the people around you is a big reason why I got over those butts.
Hey, Christian, you had the question a second ago. What was going on?
Yeah, so I was gonna say make a comment is, and then ask Brian to kind of elaborate on it a little bit. Is a lot of people, myself included, I've done this in the past, hiring an operations person. Will, you mentioned, I'll go back to saying you said you made this decision more slow and calculated than a lot, and a lot of people rush into what is an enormous decision for the trajectory of the business. And by taking it as seriously as you have, you've obviously picked somebody that already has the experience and has already done it. It sounds like, at least. And what in hiring the two people at the same time that are both the key parts, I imagine, even though maybe it took 6 months to get from idea to fruition, you're probably going to 4x your growth as if you would have just hurry up and hired the first person you talk to, like most people end up doing, because they don't want to go through the 6 months of aggravation of hiring somebody, because that's not exactly fun, especially for a high level position. So I think that's a huge win is for you taking the time to do it. I was so happy to see getting the apps, like making absolute certain you got the right people, because I think that's such a huge step.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is too, is like you built up your business to a point where you could afford to do that. Most people can't.
Yeah. And I will say it came with sacrifice, because I don't know how many hours I was working for the last 2 to 3 months, but I mean, there was like 14-hour days followed by a 12, followed by a 16. Like, it was like wake up and work till you go to sleep. And, because at some point, like, that sacrifice, somebody's got to do it. And it was a lot. It was wearing on me, but I took on an opportunity that I honestly thought Scott was going to say, don't do. And we talked about it, and the opportunity made sense. I was able to start to leverage it. I hired a production partner. I stopped taking photos. Like Christian and Eli and Eric, and they were on a Zoom where I'm taking pictures of a listing, and I finally was like, what, someone else can do this. Someone else. I leveraged. I was that guy. I literally was a solo show. And I've turned the ship completely around, and I'm leveraging things. I'm seeing where I can utilize, where's the best use of my time, and where are the people that are around me, and what can they do? And hiring the production partner was huge. Merging with my business partner's acquisition company was huge. It gave me some financial, boost to hire the 2 right people. And then I took several months to go through this process. I got the discs, I got the references, I did the dual interviews, made sure that it was right, because I will say one thing that I did very wrong in the beginning was just hired on anybody that felt like they could fit the bill or, could pass an interview. And then you realize very quickly, a lot of people can pass an interview and be great on a 1 or 2, half-hour sessions. So taking the time and really analyzing the data, getting the disc, understanding where they've been, what they've done, looking at their references, reviewing all that and getting the right person. Trust me, I don't want to do this again. So doing it right the first time is hard, but very rewarding.
Now that you've got, it might be a little bit too early for this question, but I want to ask it. Now that you've gotten a taste of what it looks like to free up your schedule, what's going to fill the slots for future advancement now that you've got that time?
I think what it does now is it allows me to go do more business type things, instead of working in the business, I'm gonna be working on the business, forming those relationships, being able to work on the marketing pieces and the bigger type things that really take high level decisions that I was just so, I've heard Christians say it a million times, like, why would you send out an email that you spent 30 seconds on when you're going to be hitting so many people instead of like going to do that, what that listing or whatever, the listing is going to be great, but you're going to impact however many people in your database, and you spend 30 seconds to a minute writing it and you look stupid or it doesn't come across the right way. Like, I'll be able to spend the time on those things that really can move the needle instead of those little day-to-day things. I can work on the big things that will, really move the needle in the long run. I think that's where I'm going to spend a lot of my time.
Hey,
So is the
Eli.
goal- sorry.
No, go ahead, Christian.
Is the goal for the 2 hires, it sounds like, really just to grow the brokerage, and you're going to use your team as a feeder to the brokerage?
Yeah, I think when listening to a lot of, where everybody is with their team and what the team does and how it grows and progresses and culture and everything else, I just feel like, and one of the things that kind of played a factor in it too is like the number of transactions definitely decreasing. So it's harder to feed more mouths. And I feel like having a program like Zillow Flex, having some good systems and good trainings and teaching people how to build a business. Some people will get burned out on Flex, and having a place for them to go and still do all the things that they were taught and have the same systems and people and support around them, but just not have that Flex or that accountability team type atmosphere, I think is a nice transition. So I do feel like my team will be a 10 to 15 person team. It might get bigger, but I feel like very efficiently 10 to 15 people rolling is manageable. Culture is controllable. It's more personal, and then having the bigger brokerage on the back end, because and really it's not even on the back end. It's equal. They're equal parts. I'm passionate about both. But I think growing the brokerage for me is a larger opportunity than growing the team.
You've had the brokerage for quite some time as well too, and I don't believe you have very many, if any, ancillary businesses that bolt onto that. Is that also in the game plan, or is that 3-year vision, 5-year? What does that look like?
I think you might have missed the memo on that. I do have a JV title and 2 mortgage now. So
You do. Where did I miss that?
I don't know, but man, I will text you some really, really good news. My first ancillary came in and it kind of looked like that.
Wow.
Wasn't your attachment rate really good? I remember we were talking about that one day.
What's that?
Your attachment rate to the
Oh yeah.
you're
I
like
had
80-ish% or something.
had brokerage agents who never just like started sending business there.
That's awesome.
What a great
That,
transition. That's good.
that I want to be the second part of our conversation today, if there's time. If not, we can push it till next Thursday, but keep going with any other questions. Eli, did you have something that you wanted to ask about the process that he's going through?
He's got some notes.
I know, studious.
No, I think Brian kind of elaborated a little bit more about it. I just wanted to ask you more about what was his vision about the team and the brokerage, and I think he just answered that. Um, wasn't what I expected or what I would do, but I'm happy for you, man. It's great. And I do think that, the ancillary side of it is something that um when I started my JV in title, it was great. But now I'm starting to see like what else can I add or how can I turn that to be, you know, where either our team, because I don't want it to be a thing where it just becomes like where whatever business our team brings, I want that to start growing on its own as well. So making sure that you have the right partner on that side, I think is super important.
I will say that is very important, having a good ancillary team, like making, because it is a reflection of you. It may not be you, but if you're referring them, people look at it as like it was you. So having a good team behind you, like the ancillary JV title that I have is he's an attorney and he does CE training for my brokerage, for my team on a monthly basis at my office. He's the attorney on retainer for my brokerage. Plus, like, there's just a lot of good things, and it's very, very reputable in the business. And so far, always a few hiccups with it, but the first, we started in beginning of this year. Really, we didn't start ramping up until like Q2 is when we officially launched, but it was pretty amazing when it started to go and everybody bought into it. Service was good. Everything, having an attorney that answers his phone at 7:00 at night when your agent has a huge question, like, is very nice to have. So partnering and picking the right ancillaries, not just doing it for, the investment or the return, but doing it because you're making your team better, your brokerage better, and it's better service for your clients. That's the key. Is because then it's not even like you have to use this or you should use this. It is, I want to use this because it is so good.
For those of you watching, you might not recognize your state is either a title escrow or an attorney title state, right? So when he's referencing his attorney, it's not necessarily a litigation attorney. That's how they close their transactions. Just throwing that out there so everybody doesn't think that Brian's company has attorney problems at 7:00 at night. His attorneys answer the phone because that's a big retainer. When you have these positions, right? How are you changing the structure of defining that chair and KPIs for that chair, and then the compensation for that chair? If you haven't, what's the timeline on getting that started? Because it shouldn't really be optional. We're going through this. I think everybody in this call has gone through this process, is going through this process. So why do we do that, right? So why do we define the chair, not the person? The chair is, what's his job? How is it measured? And then what's the compensation attached to those KPIs, the measurements and the job itself? So then that way, as the responsibilities start to grow, you can spin off certain responsibilities. So not one person has this huge eclectic job description that's going to burn somebody out. Have you started that process yet?
Yeah, actually, that was probably one of the things in the state of the business meeting that went very, very well, was that we decided on, let's just pick a 90-day amount. This is what you get paid for 90 days. And we're going to set goals, KPIs, and then we're going to review them in 90 days. And then we're going to negotiate our contract moving forward. We're going to negotiate bonuses, pay structure, responsibilities. Did the KPIs work? Didn't they work? So right now, both are on temporary agreed payment salary. And no bonuses, no nothing. We have 90 days. We're going to revisit the state of the business, where we wanted to go, where we are, does it work? What do we think is fair compensation? What do we think fair bonuses are? And we're going to put in permanent contracts. The plan is to put in permanent contracts. Hopefully we're not parting ways, but
Right.
that's the plan. So I felt like that is just no pressure on anybody to just try to hit the bonus or hit this to make it look like it's working. It's like, here's the time we're spending. It's 90 days. This is what you're getting paid regardless. And we're going to evaluate as a team when we get there. And then we're going to negotiate numbers and bonuses and what works and what doesn't. And
Brian, when you say permanent, do you mean like annual?
yeah, like more of a annual contract of like payment and bonuses and all that stuff. Because I felt like to say, it's very hard to say to somebody in the beginning, like, okay, you're going to get paid X to recruit this many people. Well, you know what he's going to do? He's just going to recruit everybody. We're not going to create a system. We're going to hit the goal because we said we're going to recruit this, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so really setting the KPIs and understanding the brokerage offerings of the commission structure and how we want to formulate our value proposition and our tech stack and all that stuff is probably ultra important. And to see who's putting in the work and the effort and understanding the model and really proving what is going to work, or a theory on how it's going to work and what the KPIs need to look like, is way more important. And then once we can openly look at, this is doable, this is realistic with the systems and tools and budget and processes that we have. Now let's say this is what we're rolling out. This is our target goal. This is what we're recruiting. This is what we're building. And now we get paid on this. Because to do that up front, I don't think it's fair to anybody. Because you don't know what you're supposed to recruit. You don't know how you're going to do it. So let's make sure that we build all these things. Let's run the numbers to see what we need to do to grow and be profitable and sustainable. And then let's put that in place in 90 days. And then let's set our goals and set those KPIs and bonuses and work that way. And I think everybody felt that was more fair than just setting up something where no one really knows the outcome.
So, in the essence of, you have this date in 90 days. When are you guys going to start working on that collectively and then checking in to make sure that they're doing it? So not everybody waits the last 2 weeks before the 90 days are up to create their job description. Have you started creating a shared document with each of them? And then it basically says, job title, the mission, tasks, responsibilities, KPIs, ways we measure that, compensation that's attached to it. So then that way in real time, as something comes up, oh yeah, I'm doing that, let me put that on there. So we're not trying to do it from memory in 90 days. Have you started that process yet? Or
yeah, so the two of the first emails that came over after the contracts were signed Monday, the very first one was like, here's the first 5 things I want to implement, track, and do. And we're like, okay, great. So I started another shared file with where things, like what we're going to be working on and how we're implementing them and what resources we need to do them. And then we're just going to meet on a weekly basis to just check in, where are we at, what's going on, what do we need, what are your issues, those type of things. Because I imagine it'll take a week or 2 to really get comfortable and situated and kind of moving forward and getting acclimated with everything. But it seems to be going really well right now. Just in the beginning, like already the progress and the introductions. And I mean, like I said, yesterday, you guys know, but I had a team meeting where there was like 18 people in the room. Everybody showed up except for one person. And there were conversations had after everybody, like it was just a good, welcoming, good meeting. Even had agent participation, like brand new agent on my team was there, interested, staying after, like just felt good. So I was extremely happy.
That's awesome, Ryan. I'm actually, Scott, as you know, I'm going through that process as well myself right now with my operations person. And, you know, one of the things that I'm excited about is like, we have tasks that there's their responsibility, but what this is allowing us is to actually break it down, right? To not only their tasks, but the people that they're managing in departments and what those tasks entails as well. And as you mentioned too, is that when are we going to be able to spin off, right? Where, you know, because the idea is, as I'm creating this doc, I'm seeing that we're creating 2 to 3 future job positions as well, and we're putting KPIs around them as far as compensation, but also as far as like, what are the organization goals, and when do we bring this person that's going to come and take full ownership of that, right? That's solely doing that. um and the same time, what that does, it just sets that person up for success, right? Because now we have created their job description, we created the systems and the processes, we know what success looks like, we know what expectations are and accountability, and also compensation too, right? So I'm doing that right now with my operation person, and it's like it's I'm excited.
That's
It's
awesome.
hard, but I'm excited.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to transition, Scott, or should we continue down this path?
Eric, or not Eric, Brian, thank you so much for letting us play Q&A. That was it's very enlightening, with the market the way that it's shifting. It is this is the opportunity for market share, right? So I when you said, what do you think of this idea, I was like, you got to do it. You got to do it, because you're already so strong in your MLS. This is just, you're going to come out the other side of it, while everybody else is still trying to figure out what to do. And that's just amazing. Something that Brian talked about, and we talked about it a little bit here, which is the verticals and the integration within the teams and the brokerages, your relationship with lending partners, relationship with closing, everything from home warranty. And, we see in the industry that most lead sources, most legitimate lead sources, not cheap leads, whatever.org, or, whatever the fly-by-night company is, but legitimate lead sources are starting to really insist on lender attachment. And as that lender attachment starts to happen, we're also going to start seeing that lead sources with lender attachment look at the splits that relocation companies get. Relocation companies can take 40 to 46% off the top before the broker, before the team, before the agent. And Tom talked about this 2 years ago, and I think the time is really upon us, where by 2025, if you want a legitimate online lead source for new opportunities, it's coming with lender attachment, and it's coming with a 40 to 45% referral fee. How can teams, if we could take some time, spitball some ideas, how can we get out in front of that? Because 40%, 45% referral fee off the top that doesn't leave a lot of room for profitability.
Our big thing, we've been talking about this, our really marketing core focus for the next foreseeable future is organic lead gen. And if it's not all organic, what can we generate that's not just Google pay-per-click on paid ads? We're building out our SEO evergreen videos on YouTube and building out that whole channel that's not even team branded. The only thing really team about it is me and what I have to say for compliance reasons. But that could effectively turn into a separate arm of a separate business. Our unbranded home site or home search website, same idea, as we're driving a lot of our focus, I should say, probably 75 to 80% of our marketing focus is going towards those two things. And I could see, just like Eli, just like you mentioned, jobs being created. We have probably 5 or 6 other jobs that aren't necessary, but with growth would make a lot of sense in building your own local stuff. So, you know, you're never going to beat Zillow, but if you can generate enough business to feed your own team, and you have 50% more margin than your team next to you that's only taking flex deals, you have a lot more runway and you have a lot more room to grow.
It's an interesting concept to think about. If I'm buying into something that's charging me 40% of my income or more,
40% off the top.
right?
That's even before the broker gets his split, before the team gets their split to the agent. Like, that leaves so little. Sorry to interrupt, but yes.
No, that's exactly my point. Is at some point we got to look at profitability versus really even market share sometimes. Is profitability can be, I can honestly go into 5 neighborhoods that I know and spend all of my time in that space and make 700 to $1 million, you know, or I can go and do the 40% approach and work my tail off with my team. And I don't know, there's a weird balance there that you have to at least pay attention to. Like right now, it's still profitable.
It depends, right, in your model and the vision that you have for your company, Eric, because if you go to specific, there's so many transactions in one area that's going to happen, right? If you're maybe a solo agent, that could work and you want to do specific amount of business, but for scaling the business, I think that you need to be able to go deep, but also wide. And I do think that we need to solve the issue of these high referral fees, right? Because it's not sustainable and we don't control our own destiny. But it does help to get market share, right? We're talking about generating organic leads, right? That are coming. This is an opportunity to do it while we can, because, you know, right now I'm going on my 2 years, right? Or just 2 years of Zillow. I have a whole backlog of contacts and people that I could be we're marketing to and continue this relationship that don't come with a referral fee. Right. So I think that there has to be, if you're a team or your organization, you pick the one avenue, that pillar that's going to work for you, be really good at it, master it, get to the point where you convert at a high level. And then you need to then you can go and add someone there that's going to take ownership of that, right? Create a job position and let that run on its own, because you're not the one doing it. Then you need to go and double down on, you know, creating content, creating the evergreen content, YouTube, or organic leads, all the stuff. And I'm not even including the Google pay-per-clicks, right? Because that's separate. That's paid per leads, right? But you double down, and then you get that to a point where it is converted at a high level, it is automated, you have the right people for it because you can afford to pay for them. And then that's your other pillar. And then you continue to add pillars like that, for example, or just go wider on those, right? Just go in the bigger market doing the same thing if it's working. That's the way I see it.
I do not argue with you at all about that. 100% that's correct. However, if you think about it from the point of view of having 10 agents that have 5 neighborhoods each, in addition to, by the way, my database was created by Zillow. I have, let's say, 10,000 people in my database account right now because of Zillow. But at some point I drew the line in the sand. I knew that I'm not able to nurture that many people. And I wanted to focus a little bit hyper local on my specific area. There's no one answer here, but I will say that there's more opportunity for you to have a local network right now if that gets any higher in cost. That's all I was saying.
I don't think that the word is if. I think it will get higher in cost, and you should have a backup plan. You should have another pillar beside that, right? You shouldn't just treat that as a transactional situation, because, you know, that's where a lot of teams make a mistake, because they see that, all right, this is my converting, and they forget about all the other people, right? You got to treat it like a business. You got to continue to add value to everyone in your database, right? And I just do think that, for example, you know, I get the idea of being able to do that in a local level, and I think that's agent, they should be doing that. But in a team perspective, right? Or it's like where I see, at least for me, it's just so much harder and it's going to take a long time versus and a lot of money, depending on which market I need to break into. Right. So it's kind of, you kind of do get the attachment of a high cost, but where the partnership with Zillow has helped us, for example, is that we were able to break into specific markets that otherwise I would have not at that time. Right. And the same time, giving me the opportunity, giving me the infrastructure, right. Or at least pushing me to create the infrastructure and the foundation that I can go implement that strategy in different markets, right. That I want to expand to, or be able to afford to bring the right people so I can grow different divisions of my business. And I think that's where we need to be able, like, there is a key about focusing, right? But also you need to be able to have a different division of your team, how you're generating revenue. So like you can't just depend on only Flex, for example, because that is rented land, right? You need to have a different avenue as well that not only is going to add profits and revenue, but also it's going to ensure a better, secure future, for your company.
I think the few things that we may be able to agree on is, first, it like the market is going to probably increasing, in my opinion, the market's going to increasingly get more difficult for solo agents.
Yes.
100%. I mean, we see it now.
Which is going to drive solo agents to teams or out of the business. And I think the next step up from there, go ahead, Eli.
No, I agree with that. And I think that and not necessarily solo agents are going to be out of the business. I also think that brokerages are changing their models as well, which may still allow solo agents to be, but brokers are changing, even national brokers are changing their model where they're operating like some teams, right? Where they're either full-fledged team, they're just brokerage, or they're adding different pieces to their business that agents can plug in and play, right? So it's like, hey, you don't need a marketing department. Here's my marketing department. You can still be a solo agent. Use my marketing department. This is how much it's going to cost you, right? You know what? I have Flex. Here's the thing. You can have an 80% split, but if you take my lead, you get 50%. Right? You're seeing that brokerage model is already changing. You have companies like Coldwell Banker doing that right now, and they're in a cap model, right? So, and I think that not only are solo agents going to be difficult, but I do think that they're going to start depending either on teams or brokerages who have that model in place to support those agents.
Yeah. So I think so. My thought with this whole thing is, if it's getting harder for solo agents are probably going to go to teams or get out of the business. And when they're choosing these teams, it's really hard right now for the small teams that either don't offer a lot of value or they don't run in profit. And to scale profitably is incredibly difficult, which means that these small teams are probably going to start getting swallowed up by larger teams or just dissolving altogether. And then those agents will go to the larger teams. I think you're going to see a lot of consolidation and all of those different things. And I think that for me in my business model that's why I think it's extremely important to grab market share while we can in profitability.
I think you said that right there with like scale profitably, right? And I think that's a hard thing to do. And I'm not saying you're not going to make any money, but like to maximize your profit and scale, it's like it's impossible in my opinion.
Well, it's a
really
meter,
hard,
right? You can scale more if you profit less, and the more you profit, you're scaling.
And if you go right now is growth and gaining market share, right, and scale, you need to burn a little bit of that profit, right, in order to get to where you want to get, and that's okay. It's okay that you're making a little bit less money now because I think that we will see it, 2-3 years from now.
Well, and Scott, too, on your point is the concern is the lead provider attaching ancillaries.
Mhm.
That's what the brokers don't provide leads, but like that's how they built their whole entire business model, is attract agents and bolt on ancillaries. And teams, again, unless you're huge, you're not going to be opening a mortgage company. You're not going to be opening an escrow company. I don't know, but like you guys have different rules. We're about as strict as possible in California. You have to be doing a ton of business in order for title or escrow to make any remote sense. And, the 10-person team doing 100 deals in California, you're not opening an escrow company. You need 300 or 400 deals to open an escrow company. And that's a lot of business in California. That's 400 million before you start opening your first ancillary, which is what we're looking at, right? And I think that's where it's just going to get more and more and more difficult for those smaller teams, because they're, as of 6 months ago, really starting to lose flex, the ones that didn't perform well.
Yeah. And, a slight tick in one direction or another with, a national program, right? We've seen what happens, case in point with realtor.com, with the steady decline in opportunities. People visiting the website's one thing, but people clicking through after they visit the website's the real number, and that number is radically changing. And then the people who click through to an actual closing, some lead sources are just not delivering that third tier down. And then, we have organizations, built around a cult of personality like Dave Ramsey, right? Who is, obviously a lead generator who built in a ton of verticals, real estate being one of his verticals, lending being one of his verticals,
Insurance
and everything else. But the cost to do business, the price to enter somebody that has that kind of presence does not leave enough on the table for a team. Leaves enough on the table for an individual agent, but individual agents can't deliver on the accountability to get the deals closed. As a rule, not 100%. Obviously, there's successful agents, but at scale.
Yeah.
And I think that the industry is going to go through this huge elasticity, right? So we've been ramping up to this referral-based lead source with strong accountability, with, attachment. They're going to push it because they see that, relocation companies, and I think that it's going to be 18 months that they're just going to try and squeeze and push, and then it's going to bounce way back because they're going to see their numbers plummet. Because if a company, if a team cannot make it profitable to run at a 40 to 45% referral fee, that leaves the teams that aren't managing the leads well in the game, which means that's a lower conversion ratio, which means it's a very low attachment ratio. Because if you're doing a 90-10 split, 10% going to the team on, we'll use Flex as an example, you're not referring business to ZHL. At a 90-10 split, you're making sure that those leads go to your lender, because that's how you're making money as a brokerage or as a team. And, knowing corporate America, looking at, P&L statements and everything on a quarterly basis, it's literally going to take 18 months for that to vet itself out, in my opinion. And who knows what the industry is going to look like then. So I think it is a very tumultuous next couple of years if you're not doing very similar to what some of you guys are talking about, right? Creating that blend of business within the agents, but the team has to go back to actually generating the leads. So then that way the team has a profitability per transaction per agent. So
I want to give.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Brian was going to say something earlier. I just want to make sure we got that in.
I think one of the the big things, like we all say, like these companies, the relocation companies, Flex, all these referral type businesses, referral type leads. I can't tell you how many teams I see that just, that's their pillar, right? Their eggs are in one basket. That's their pillar. And I think what's different about everybody in this room is that we believe in an agent journey and teaching them the business and how to be self-sustainable, but with the right tools, systems, and processes. So being able to provide is great. Pay the referral fee, no problem. Being able to leverage from that client that you've closed is how you are going to be successful. People buy from people. It is relationship business, and you need to leverage every opportunity that you get from that 40% referral, that 35% referral, because if you're not teaching your agents how to leverage that relationship and, be that people person, that personality, and how to follow up and be a genuine, you've got to want to do this business. You got to want to help people. If you're just in it for the money or whatever, you're not going to succeed, because you're going to be one of those ones that always has to go to that well of referral leads because you didn't build a business. I could turn off my marketing today, everything, and I would have referrals and deals all the time because of the way that I treat my clients. I go to their open housewarming parties. I generally enjoy their company. I go golfing with them. I do all those things because I enjoy watching them go through the journey of home ownership, selling a home, buying a home, investing in a home, and it's repeatable business. And you've got to be teaching your agents that inside the agent journey and showing them, because they will come right back to you instead of going to Zillow. If you've made an impression or an impact in their biggest transaction of their life, they're going to come right back to you. And if you teach agents how to do that, they will be sustainable. They will be successful. But
So I have a question for you. Sorry to interrupt you. What's the lifetime value, or let's say instead of dollar amount, just let's do a time of an agent for an organization, for a team?
For a team, I think it's much shorter than somebody in my shoes.
On the brokerage.
Right. I would say if you're providing the right tools and systems and helping them along the way and training them how to build a business within your system, then it's recruit, train, retain. Right.
I get that, right? But life happens, shit happens, things happen, right? And there's a lot of things that when you're building an organization, there's a lot of things that could come up, so we need to know what is a time frame that an agent is going to stay with the organization. And I think that I've heard 18 months for teams and maybe 7 years for brokerages, or 5 years along those lines, but we could do whatever. But let's say it's 2 years for someone, or 3 years for someone to be on your team, and they're utilizing your system, your processes, the leads that you're generating, and you're helping them, and they're closing on them, and you're helping them building their business, and maybe they are doing what they need to do to retain those relationships, to stay in touch with those clients. But then what happens? Because the average person buys every 7 years.
They know people.
So how are you getting that business again? And how likely are they going to refer to you? And if you leave that, if that business is gone in 3 years, right? Then it's like there's a huge profit that you're missing, and revenue. So I think the next step is for organization to be the one that has a relationship with the consumer directly, that drives the consumer and the trust to the brand, to just not the agent, but the company as a whole. So whichever organization wins that game, I think that's the other thing too, right? That we need to keep an eye on. It cannot just be, I'm going to teach my agent how to do it. The organization has to be the one that does it, in my opinion.
If
know,
you
I-
right? Because Eli, you and I, like Brian and Eric, you guys are incredible agents, right? And I mean, you guys all know this. Eric, you're a Scott. Eric, you're a Scott. Eric, you're a coach. Scott, you're a coach. You guys are probably having a conversation all the time. Like, why don't you guys just like with your coaching clients who are paying money to be coached, call your fucking past clients, right? Like, follow up with the leads you have. And you guys are level 10 agents, but levels 1 through 8 don't do anything that you're telling them to do, right? That you guys do, or they'll do some of it. And taking a step back from a teammate, like same thing with my agents, it's like, call your past clients. Why don't we go through and actually do the follow-up, follow the actual process that works? Look, the top 10% of our agents that actually follow the process actually sell houses. And that right there is the problem, is the agents just don't do their job a lot of the time, right? Or they don't do all of the job all the time. And to Eli's point, if you have an agent, you only keep them for 3 years, you're not keeping the database that they're building, that you're training them how to milk and do all that. If they do it anyway, they come.
Yeah, even if they do it, that relationship is with that agent, so you're losing that. Like, good luck, right? If you want to sue someone, right?
A company that does this really well, and I've said this before, and nobody likes it, but I think really the only company that does this well is Redfin.
Yeah.
If somebody sells with Redfin and has a good experience and they move to another state where their agent can't help them, they're calling Redfin.
Yeah, I agree. And we should have, the agent journey, right? We have in place. It's great. It also allows organization to build agents that are great in the same time, while also making majority of the profits up in the front end. And as they grow, as their business grow, then you make less and less, right? If you don't have the next step of growth, or if you don't have the organization where you can actually take a 5% or 10% margin on something, then at that point, you having that, having those agents into your organization, they become just almost resource draining, right? So like you're still have to spend money to your organization to run, right? So you have to hire more people and so on. So I'm not at that level yet, but that's what I'm thinking, right? So there's got to be something there, but we need to have almost like a customer journey as well, right? That continues to get them to engage with our organization, with our brand, and all the things that we've been talking about that agents should be doing. I think a company should be doing as well, right? And that's all I'm saying right now, is that if we don't do that, and obviously if we're doing as an organization, we're doing it really well, that business is still coming through our agents.
I got a question. So 2 things. One, I totally agree with you, Eli and Christian, right? However, if somebody were to lay out an actual real journey that makes sense, that's obtainable, achievable, and it's playing out, and it's fair, and it's beneficial to you, are you going to leave that company? If it's
Agents
good.
leave for the dumbest reasons.
Right,
and
but
for the most
agents have
justified
left
reasons.
for a long time, right?
I had an agent that left because they got a Zillow lead that they worked with, and then the Zillow lead said, I don't want to work with this agent anymore, discontinued the relationship, and someone else got it, just so happened to be on my team, and then took offense to it.
So were they the right person?
They were the right person. They were everything, but guess what? They went through that. There maybe there's a period in the life. There's a lot of things happens with people. What I'm saying, like, it's the silliest thing that we think it's silly, but it's maybe the leadership didn't see it. Maybe we failed somehow, right? But people will leave.
They will.
For whatever reason. They move to a different side of town. They want to be with a different vision, different mission. They want a different leadership. They don't like anything, right? So we just need to be smart about it, because we need to think about, like, if we're thinking 3 year, 10-year vision, we need to be able to have a plan right now, or at least work on something. So when that comes up, because it will come up.
But if you have a really good process, a really good system, a really good structure that truly works, that really, like, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort and fail multiple times on creating this system. But when you do get it to work, like, I'm sure that everybody in this room has an agent that's been with them for a long time because the system that they've promised them and everything else works right. We've also had ones that were short-term where something broke in that system and we had to tweak. But if you really focus on creating that system to retain your agents and really be a place of business that is great to work for, like, I've heard of other companies that have really good, like, people want to work for them. It's not always necessarily in sales, but it gets to my other point is, anybody truly attached to one brand? Honestly, in this room, is anybody truly attached to one single brand? Like, I'm not gonna, like, Adidas or Nike or Toyota or Ford. Like, is anybody attached to that brand so much that it doesn't matter, you're always gonna go there?
If you love on your people that you have a higher percentage of retaining that brand. That's the only thing. So you're gonna, you for example, instead of maybe 20-30%, maybe you can increase it, right? That's all I'm saying. Like, there's gonna be people that are not gonna like to work with your brand, right? For whatever reason, right? Or something happened, they want to open house, and there's all scenarios in the consumer side, but we can't be naive and assume that because we have a perfect agent path or journey, or what if that we believe on, that those people are going to stay with us forever, because they aren't,
Right.
So
unfortunately.
how do you,
You know,
Eli,
at some point, it doesn't make sense for them
No,
to be there,
it
right?
doesn't.
Or for you to have someone to stay there. Because if someone said to you, Brian, you know what, I want 80% all out, Zillow lease, your referrals, you want it, that's what I want.
Yeah. And I mean,
Either you
you're
give it to
gonna,
them or not. So
you're gonna come across this, and I'm with you. I agree with you. I think the point I'm trying to get across too is, like, if, let's just say, Eli, what kind of car are you sitting in right now?
an Audi,
Do you like it?
I like it. Yeah,
Would you buy another one?
yeah.
Okay. Did the person who sold it to you make an impact where you'd buy another Audi from him?
Yeah.
Okay. If he moved to the Audi dealership across town, would you go to him?
If it
Or would
was
you go back to that
inconvenience,
dealership?
I would probably go back to the dealership because it's convenient for me. If this person went across town and be like, "Hey, bro, I love you, but like, I'm looking for convenience, right? I'm
What if
willing
you
to
lived,
pay for convenience, for
what if they were
experience."
side by side?
If I was side by side and I didn't have a
If the
relationship with
dealerships were
the,
side by side and you bought from this one,
I will go
this
with
guy
my guy.
moved over here. Okay.
I will
That's
go with my guy.
that's the importance of what I'm trying to get across, is that the people relationship is bigger than the company relationship. And
But
if
also that company
they're going to
failed
leave,
to build a relationship with me,
I know.
right? And their agent left and took it next door, and it also took me with them,
So is there a
right?
blend of both that we can do? Is there something that we can, where we work together as building the brand and work together as building the agent to have the personal, like the Ritz Carlton? Like,
So it sure is, right? So I think that this is where you were talking about it
the
earlier, Brian. I think you were saying,
brand is
know
good,
your,
the people that work there.
Brian, you were saying earlier, so you got to know your vision and you got to know your mission, right, as a company. And I think that's very important. So it just really depends on what you're looking to build. And are you recruiting people who want to be something bigger than them, or are you recruiting people because they just want to grow their business, right? That's fine too, as well, right? If
It
you want
is.
agents that just really need the hand holding, they want the jump start, they want this so they can go do it somewhere else, it's great. Or are you building Redfin, right? Are you building Redfin? Are you building those growth for people to be able to grow, right? Still make money, but grow in responsibility. There's a lot of things. Like if I was building Redfin versus someone that was building a team, very different decisions and missions that we're making throughout our growth, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's why I'm saying, like, I think you need to understand what you're looking to do. But as far as scalability and profitability, I'd rather model something over like Redfin than just a standard team, because it's just going to be harder to scale in different markets and whatnot.
So Brian, you're talking about the company having the client relationship as well, right? So it's not just, you know, X agent having the client relationships, also then Eli reaching out or someone in Eli's organization to have that relationship with the client.
Yeah, it's like that customer care service, like
Concierge service.
if the agent didn't do it, the company did, right? And the company brands with the agent on the follow-up and the care and the pop buys and all the stuff you do to build that relationship. And then imagine if you did that for your agent, like if somebody was doing all that nurturing and saying, hey, Sean, this is Brian. I work with Christian Stubbs, and we were just thinking about you and wanted to check in to see how everything is going. Hey, we dropped something in the mail to you. I hope you get it. By the way, is there anything else we can do for you right now? How are things going? Like, could you imagine just that level of service that the agents, like Christian said, they don't do it. We've asked them to. We know it works. We're not telling them to do anything we wouldn't do, but they don't do it. But imagine if the company did do it. You're branding the company, you're branding the agent, you're forging.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think that the biggest thing that I hear, like just listening, is like Ritz-Carlton, Audi, these brands, they're fucking enormous.
They are.
Right. So like the overhead required to do those things requires massive scale.
It really does. I mean, does anybody in here, like, I'll just pick, does anybody know, I mean, I can name any brokerage in my area. I could even name dealerships in my area that are, you guys don't know them, right? They're not that big. Everybody knows an Audi, right? Like, they're worldwide brands. We are talking huge, massive scale, but I do think there's a blend on our size that can work. I think there is a little bit of both. I agree with Eli 100%. The brand has to be recognizable and likable and, relatable, just like that rock star agent.
More than the rockstar agent.
Yeah, and it will be, because the brand will teach them how to be, the rockstar brand will teach them how to be the rockstar agent.
I think the problem is not the problem, because I think it's the right move, but it's like, how important is that of the list of important things to tackle when you're trying to scale?
I agree. That's the other thing too,
Yeah.
right, Sean, is that I think that, I was telling Christian on our call a couple of weeks back, and I was like, hey, a lot of these things are great, and I'm doing some of it, but I do think that this is our focus right now, because this is what's generating the revenue, this is what's generating the growth. And if I just single out this and do this, like, we will scale.